All right, welcome back. So we turn our attention now to Nigerians, just to get perspectives on now their impression, what they feel about developments. We've got Dr. Urena Onyeuchi, who is a founder of a professionalafrica.com. She joins us via Zoom from the States. We've got Tosin Odesoya, who is the SVP Strategy and Transformation Programs, also joining us from the States, as well as Dr. Ikpenwosa Uhumavi, who is a lecturer of law, University of Bolton in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today on the program.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Let me start with you, Dr. Onyeuchi. I mean, yes, is our 60th, and there are different perspectives what people feel about the country. Do they have a sense of belonging, responsibility? Do they feel part of the equation previously, or do they think they will be part of it, or they'll have huge roles to play moving forward? Well, as we commemorate our 60th, our Diamond Jubilee, what strikes you listening and looking at all that is playing out in the country?
I think, Nigerians in general are very patriotic and are excited about a future. I think when you were speaking yesterday, you spoke about hope. And so we have those who are in the diaspora, except for COVID. I mean, typically, they go and have parties and, try to be together. So I think that in Nigeria, we still have so many problems that we face and challenges. I know personally, I want to see experts in strategy in different areas of the sectors come together and create change. But I do believe that we're going to have, in the future, as those of us in the diaspora work together with those on the continent, I think that we're going to have an amazing future for Nigeria. So that's my personal perspective.
All right, let me begin also with you, Mr. Odesoya. It's interesting that, we have a huge population of young people, both at home and abroad where you are right now. But then I'm wondering, how do you think they see how do you think they identify with the president's speech? I mean, lofty things said. Of course, a number of things have been criticized, but generally a number of people feel that's very, very inspiring. Would you say, let me just put it to you straight. How do you think that the youths, the young people, relate with that speech? Is this something that you think inspires them?
No, that's a very great question. And again, thanks for having me. I polled, a group of friends or folks within my own network. And I think a lot of them, Nigerians, fell into two camps. The camps of those who are living in Nigeria, it's a very hopeful, message, right? So, and really, quite frankly, they really have, as you think about some of the challenges that Nigeria has, just as we think about just the basics, or from a hierarchy of needs when it comes to water, health, food, electricity, access to Wi-Fi, etc. Right? They've got to be hopeful. If not, there isn't anything to depend on. On the other hand, the second camp of people, really are the folks in the diaspora. Who sometimes you might say, maybe they've been so far removed from Nigeria. Many of us come back quite frequently. But what the sentiment that I get from most of them is perplexed, right? Perplexed at the state of affairs. And I'm not so certain that the message we heard from the president yesterday, while it is one where, it seems to be optimistic, and it's one where folks may want to glean on, at the end of the day, when you think about our history, and it's a repeat of a message we've heard over and over and over again. So there's a new course of action that is needed. And I think some of that is that we need new leaders, younger leaders, who can actually step in to provide fresh perspective, in changing Nigeria and moving Nigeria forward.
Well, getting the young people interested in things, I think, is one of the challenges, or rather, maybe Your job, let me take this to Dr. Humwabe. It's actually your job to talk to young people as a lecturer. And when you talk to them, what kind of sense do you get? You know, are they confident of a better Nigeria? Are they hopeful, as Mr. Odesen has said, or do you think they're having doubts, Dr. Uhumwabi?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Channels Television, for having me again. Thanks, colleagues. The idea is this. Nigerians in diaspora are very optimistic people. The students I talk to, colleagues that I converse with on a day-to-day basis are very optimistic of a new Nigeria, particularly viewing the consciousness and the ways in which Nigerians hold themselves out in society, wherever they find themselves. We try our best to be the best that we can be as good ambassadors of Nigeria abroad. But then you look at this whole idea of certain systems not working for us in Nigeria against the optimism that is shared by Nigerians abroad. And you wonder how we can cross this divide, how we can sort of bring these two ideas together to create a uniform piece that will be holistic and coherent for Nigerians to engage with. Now, in terms of yesterday's speech, we actually saw some optimism in the president's speech when he mentioned democratic culture. That reflected the idea of a very good election that happened in Edo State. Many thanks to the INEC, the government, the president, and the international community that supported. Then the second question of national healing, that very mention of national healing also inspired confidence because that is the starting point to a new Nigeria. There are very many injustices, entrenched injustices in our system. There are many embedded structural inequalities in our system that needs to be redefined, that needs to be addressed urgently for us to come together as a nation, for this national healing to actually gain function. So that is the starting point in this process. But so far, we are optimistic because we have a country, it's a beautiful country, it's an envy of the whole world. We have an asset in our hands and we must make the best use of it.
I don't know. I'd like you to take on the same question of inclusion of young people, especially the young female Nigerian. Well, generally, it would seem like more and more people are disconnected, so to speak, from what is happening as far as government is concerned. For instance, one of our guests yesterday said, he was shocked at the way people, the young people in particular, paid more attention to a reality show that just ended as opposed to national politics, elections, and stuff like that. And then, of course, the natural question that when that question came to a young person, the person just simply said, it's easier to vote with that kind of reality show as opposed to Nigeria, the elections at the federal or state levels. How do you think we can begin to get the young people interested in the Nigeria that they must lead tomorrow?
That is a very great question.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's actually for Dr. Onyewuchi, Urena Onyewuchi. Yeah.
Okay,
yes, Dr. Onyewuchi, please. That question is for you.
I think not just Nigerians, but I think people in general are very interested in entertainment. It's something that is easily understood. When you start talking about, for instance, I'm in the area of power. Power is kind of boring to most people. Data is becoming more popular. So part of the question is, how do you make some of these areas or these sectors more attractive to young people? I think entertainment's been big for a very long time. For instance, I think a couple of years ago, I used to watch MTV's Sugar, which was trying to highlight what HIV was doing in the country. Now it's a social topic, but they made it or turned it into an entertainment topic, and that got very attractive for young people. So the question is, how do we start to make different sectors of the economy easier to understand or for young people to assimilate? So I think we have to change the marketing around the different areas or sectors of the economy. And for instance, with regards to green power, if we had a cool show like an MTV show that showed how solar energy saves money, that's going to be something that's going to be attractive to young people. So I think somehow integrating entertainment with the different areas of the economy would help young people be more interested.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to break, but we will be back in just a moment. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, let me get to you, Tosin Odesanya. Speaking about the policies that are being put in place, I know the authorities may tell you, yes, they churn out policies time and again, but we always ask questions about implementation. How do we get it right at that stage? Now, from where you stand, what you've seen different policies implemented where you are as they come up, and then you see them also being actualized. What is it that you've noticed back here or from where you stand that needs to be adjusted in order to ensure that the policies that churn out are actually implemented and people feel that policy and not keep viewing things in that principle of us and them?
Yeah, thanks for the question. As far as it relates to policy, and it's really important to note that when you look at a lot of our government leaders in Nigeria, many of them schooled in the UK, in the United States, or in many of the Western countries where they've seen really sound policies that work. But when it really comes down to it, one of the greatest challenge that we have in Nigeria is the accountability around the policies. And we've got a ton of laws, right? We've got a ton of guidelines. But the challenge always boils down to, the implementation of them, the speed. So speed at establishing a new business, speed at starting, at being able to ensure that there is equity and fairness in the distribution of contracts, the ability to protect intellectual property. Those are really, really, really important. But, for me personally, one of the things that I try to anchor on is not to really be dependent, on government. And I kind of touched on this yesterday, that really the power is really in the people, especially as we think about our country in the complex of a global economy, right? The access to power, access to Wi-Fi allows anyone, and there's several use cases of that. In the last segment, you asked, Dr. Onyewuchi, a question around female founders. She's an example of, and she may not brag about herself, but she's a perfect example of a female founder who has founded an online education platform to provide access to everyday Nigerians in order for them to be able to get access to education. And I'll give you another example of a founder actually locally based in Lagos that I met last year. Her name is Ejimonye Ofendu, right? So she's the founder of Fichaya.com, which is a subscription-based cleaning services, and of Fluff Bedding, which is an e-commerce site. Why do I bring this up? The criticality of us having young leaders, right? Not dependent, not spending their time just on social media, but really kind of saying, what are the problems around me and how can I solve for them? Now, on us as government or as leaders in the private sector, how do we equip those youth with the theory or with the hands-on tools, with the capital, with the finances, in order for them to incubate grow and scale their business in Nigeria and outside of the country.
Just a quick follow-up on that, Mr. Adesanya. The things you have, the examples you have cited are amazing. But then there are the young people out there who are, for want of a better word, disconnected. The words that the former INEC chairman used yesterday were demoralized and demobilized. They are disconnected from these realities that you are talking about. And the question Chamberlain asked you is about the policies and their execution. Now, essentially, your response is saying, look away from government. But then the policies of government will affect you one way or another. And there is a need for them to be interested and be part of the process of formulating those policies. Don't you think so?
I would agree with you. I think you had said it correctly. A lot of folks are jaded, right? And they don't, and the reason why you have, youth and individuals who are perplexed and who may not necessarily see a path is because we do not have really great examples as best practices that we can showcase. So what can the government do? If there are policies that are already established, that are in place, that are working, and they're working successfully, the question becomes, let's leverage the platforms where the youth are. So they are on social media, right? They are on Facebook, Instagram, they are on, and certainly we can use some of our entertainers who I think we all glean and we all enjoy and is given Nigeria some really great press across the country. How do we leverage those individuals where they look up to as examples to showcase the examples that would really inspire hope and that will essentially start to set the bar and standards. And the more of the examples, and really, to be quite honest, the two examples I gave previously, they are so minute. So we need an accelerated effort to really show more of what's possible. And I think that starts to create, a sense of, it starts to get people going.
Well, let me get to Dr. Ohavi on this one. Yesterday, the president appealed to Nigerians to pull together. Yes, he did identify that there are critical challenges that we face, but he thinks that if we pull together, we can indeed surmount some of these challenges. So for you, what would you consider or what have you identified as some of the huge impediments that stand in our way to achieving this?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think there are several impediments. Apart from the legal impediments, we also have institutional impediments. Apart from the institutional impediments, we have cultural impediments. Then we have a power structure impediment. These are the four critical impediments that we have to deal with. First of all, in fact, I'll take them one after the other. In terms of the legal impediments, you look at the Constitution itself. Then you ask yourself, how does this Constitution, the prescription of the Constitution, the constitutional text itself, how does it align with the structural uniqueness of the Nigerian system? You see that there is a disconnect from what the letters of the law says and the actual unique structure of our system. That disconnect, the gap in that disconnect is being exploited by conflict. That is one problem. The second problem is you have institutional problem. Because the institution requires the law to have its firm footing, the institutions themselves suffer that legal impediment that exists. Then again, you look at the aspect of administration of the institutions themselves. You have issues of funding, you have issues of conflict of interest, issues of corruption flowing in, and you have this cultural element all interwoven into it. And you find that it's difficult for the institutions themselves to function. And the structure of the institutions themselves is also difficult. Then you look at the cultural element. We touched on issues of culture lately when we look at the culture vis-a-vis the individual subculture vis-a-vis the entire state or national culture, which has no national philosophy to underpin it. So clearly, you find that we must begin to look at the national philosophy, have a vision, then build a culture. That is what happens. Now you find the power structure feeding through this because you have power structure at different levels of government. You have power structures at different levels of society as well. How can we connect the divergences that exist between the power structures in government and power structures outside the government? These are difficult considerations. Now, these impediments, if I have to go minute, you'll find the Constitution itself, the provisions of the 1999 Constitution itself, pursuant to the decree, carries with it this taint of being exclusive to a certain class and not reflective of the general wishes of the Nigerian people. So there is this disconnect, there's this lack of psychological contract with the Constitution. That in itself creates a problem because we have a constitution without constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is a product of the people. It is an ideal. It is an ideal that emanates from the bellies, the ideology, the religion, the ethnicity, the power structure, and the cultural disposition of the people. When you have a constitution without constitutionalism, it creates a problem. Now, we have a situation in our country where the institutions themselves that rely on the Constitution themselves, there are contradictions within the Constitution that make the institutions not function the way they should. These structural impediments provide a basis for us to rethink the way we engage with the law and the society as a whole. There are opportunities here. There are opportunities in the area of reforming this. First of all, we have to go rethink ourselves as Nigerians and say, what do we have to give to the world? What is our philosophy? The US has a philosophy anchored on the Federalist Papers. The United Kingdom has a philosophy anchored on the Magna Carta of 1215. The Germans have a philosophy. After the Second World War, the Germans used the judiciary as a basis to create a cultural consciousness. The French, they have a philosophy of legality. These countries have a culture of legality, which they have framed around these various entities. The US has Congress, the United Kingdom has the House of Parliament, parliamentary supremacy. The Germans use the judiciary. The French, they use the administrative system under a philosophy of legality. What is our philosophy? When we have a philosophy, then we can begin to build. Then the vision will come in. What is our vision? What are we selling to the world?
Yeah, Dr. Mavi, so having seen quite a number of things from that perspective, what do you think that if we leverage on, that could be our own identity to the world?
Great question. What we can sell to the world, first of all, is our identity as Nigerians. How do we sell that identity? If we are Nigerian today, that stand to say, well, we are the giant of Africa, that we are the key human resource anchor of Africa, then we can begin to invest heavily. Every element within the country will begin to work towards creating an educational system that will produce the best IT specialists, the best medical doctors, the best lawyers. If we say today we want to create Nigeria as a hub for international trade, every tribe and region will galvanize. It's natural. These other countries I've mentioned, they have tribes, they have different ethnic groups. But because the philosophy is so convincing, it's so overwhelming, they forget their tribal differences and they all fall in line into a national philosophy. We need a national philosophy in Nigeria. Forget about this tribe, forget about this tongue. When we have a philosophy that is compelling, Nigerians all over the world will fall in line.
Let me ask you, Dr. Onyewuchi. Well, you've listened to Dr. Onwavi, and he's given an idea. For you, Dr. Onyewuchi, what would be the most outstanding identity that Nigeria, in your own opinion, should be pushing for that Nigerian identity that he's talked about?
For one, in the US, Nigerian Americans or Nigerians are known to be the most educated minorities in the country. And so that's already given us an identity, something that we can hold on to. But I think even in terms of the economy or just expertise I've always said that if Nigeria could stand up and excel in pretty much, all the areas that we need to, the Black race around the world would be strengthened. So definitely, our identity as being big on education is huge. But I think that we can take it one step further to better identify ourselves in a particular area. Lately, I've found that data engineering has been growing a lot in Nigeria, that there are lots of IT hubs in pretty much almost all the states in the country. And so I'm kind of leaning towards data engineering being a big one. The other thing, obviously, is around entertainment. I think we're the top three in entertainment in the world: the US, India, and then Nigeria. So in terms of acting, we are pretty strong in that area. So I think that if we continue to push these areas, but then even higher than that, past entertainment towards professional services, we can excel. But I do know that when the president of the US had said something negative about Nigeria, several anchors in the US spoke up about how educated Nigerians are, and how Nigerian doctors, Nigerian engineers, and so on have really helped with building the economy and the country here. So I think we're definitely identifying ourselves or standing out in different areas. Also, you have students in different parts of the world who excel. On LinkedIn, we constantly see, you have this Nigerian student who scored the highest in his class. So I think education is a big one. And that's one of the reasons why I started the company that I started, professionalafrica.com, which is huge on education and knowledge sharing. For instance, we curate webinars. Tomorrow, we're doing a webinar on how foreigners can work in the US, in a US Fortune 500 company. There are lots of Nigerians in the US who are not sure about how to get a job here, especially in this climate. And then you have Nigerians in the country as well who want to come out, leave the country and probably get some expertise outside of the country. So that's one of the things that we're doing. So, really big on education and knowledge sharing across the sector. So we're identifying ourselves definitely in entertainment and in education, I would say.
Well, because it would seem like, anyway, Mr. Odesanya already reported you that you are not giving yourself enough credit for what you do, and kudos. But then it will seem like to a lot of people, especially in diaspora perhaps, when we talk about Nigeria, we talk about Nigeria in just one utopia, one intangible entity. So there seems to be a distance between the Nigeria itself, Nigeria as a country, and Nigerians. That's what it would seem. I love Nigeria, but I'm a Nigerian. It would seem that there is some bit of disconnect in the minds of some people, especially those at home. So how do you think we can begin to connect those dots from what you have said?
I think, some of us in the diaspora romanticize Nigeria. We have a view of what we want it to be or what we think it is until we actually, should I say, land in the country and start, trying to work or push for things to succeed. I think we can close the gap a little bit better. I think if young people start to get more into positions of power, I would like to see some of the experts who are in the diaspora be integrated into advisories for government. I think Lagos State government is very strong in bringing in young people that are experts, in the US and around the world. So I think that for instance, most of us in diaspora don't even know how to get involved in anything on the continent, how to write successful proposals, We don't know how to apply to be an advisor to different governments. There are several committees in different states. We're not really sure how to get plugged in. And so, I always look out for the webinars that different people are and different companies are doing to see, which ones can teach or better educate those of us in the diaspora how to get involved. So it's a gap that I would love for us to close someday soon. But I think that one of the ways that we can get that plug in is for us to have a better idea of how we can come in and help in the country. Not only, we're starting businesses, but definitely getting more into advisories for the government. That's what I would love to see.
Well, let me also ask the gentleman, according to data published by the CBN, Nigeria receives about $17.5 billion diaspora remittances in 2019. That's huge. Now, how would you suggest, because in line with what Dr. Nyochi has said, what would you want to see, either the way things are done, how you can contribute, advise government and authorities? What do you want to see change or done differently to improve and garner for more some of these experiences from Nigerians in the diaspora? Let me start with you, Tosin.
Yeah, so I'm a very solution-minded person, right? So, and given the work that I do in strategy and transformation, and just putting this back to the comment that was made around cultural identity, right? I think Nigerians, regardless of where you are, in Nigeria or outside of the country, we are known for our bold vision. We dream big. We have a lot of courage, determination. There's a lot of resiliency that exists amongst us. In fact, I would say, at the end of the day, if you look at consistently, Nigerians are thriving and succeeding, especially those of us, who have had who have had opportunities and have been very fortunate in some of the opportunities that have been bestowed upon us. Now, here's the challenge. We are also known for something which I think, is to have a very selfish, if I may say sometimes, very, and I don't, not necessarily trying to be negative here, but we don't have a sense of we over me. Right? We do not have a sense, and when we have arrived, Nigeria never carry last, right? So when we've arrived, we end up staying in that mindset of arrival without uplifting others. So here are some thoughts, and I certainly will give you an example of some things that in my circle of influence I'm saying. Here in Dallas, Texas, I've got a group of friends, and we have formed an investment club called the Nigerian American Investment Partners, NAPE. One of the key focus of NAPE is how do we address wealth gap, not only of Black, Americans here in the United States, but how do we also address it in Nigeria as well? So it's the infusion of capital, it's mentorship, it is scholarship. It is really about how do we really create opportunities. And the investments and focus that we've had has been in the health sector. It's been around biotech. It's been in technology and even in real estate as well. And my point of giving this example is us in the diaspora or those who are in Nigeria, there's a lot of opulence, a lot of wealth. That wealth needs to be turned around from oppression to how do I enable, to how do I engage, how do I uplift. And I think that is a fundamental change in culture that needs to happen, within the country, within the fabric of all Nigerians across the board. And may I just add accountability from a standpoint of corruption. When that is added, there is no doubt that we will unleash our full potential as a country.
All right, Dr. Harvey, how about you?
Yes, I think I'll first of all say that Nigeria has the longest coastline in West Africa. That is a massive opportunity for business. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people. That is another massive opportunity for investment. Now, in terms of capital coming into Nigeria from abroad. When capital comes in and there is no space for that capital to be functional, it will not work. It will just disappear. It will dissipate. That is natural. But when there is a room created, or when there are rooms created for that capital to find space in a system that is developed to encourage work, hard work, capital will begin to generate more capital. That is the way it works. So first of all, I'm more interested in the structural aspect, because when the structure is faulty, anything goes in, it doesn't stand. When you put something or nothing, it cannot stand. I would want to say, first of all, let's address the issue of our laws, put them in place. Let's address the issue of our institutions, engage with panel of inquiry approach in the reform of our institutions, encourage judicial review culture, introduce this idea of performance bond in the area of institutional reform. Now, in the area of cultural reform, we need a code, a national unity code, which will help us integrate our culture, the culture that we've identified as useful to Nigerians, within the grand scheme of our philosophy, to develop a unique identity for ourselves. Because what we have are individual identities. We don't have a collective identity yet.
Very good.
We need to start doing that. Then again, we have to look at issues of incentivizing social, cultural integration in our country. We must create social incentives as a quid pro quo for cultural integration. We must create hard and soft infrastructure.
Yeah, Dr. Uwabi, there are a lot of things that you have listed out that, man, this is sounding like a referendum on its own, and it's amazing. But very quick one for all of you to answer in 10 seconds each. A song by Wole Soyinka wrote the song Etike Revolution, way time passed, and Tunji Oyelano and the Benders performed it. And it began with, I love my country, I no go lie. For you, let me start with you. Ladies first, Dr. Onyewuchi. What do you most love about Nigeria that you can't give up?
I would have to say the food. I'm a foodie. Every country that I go to, it's, the food is what I love. But Nigerian food, I feel like there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. So if any of the other guys are going to say something, we're going to say food. Sorry, I got that first. But for me, I definitely say the food.
Right. Mr. Odesanya.
There are lots of things. One, our intellect, right? So that is one thing that you, bar none, anywhere we are, we always excel, we always exceed. Our music, right? So we've got a lot of great artists, and when we think about also Nollywood and just really, I mean, there's no one here in the diaspora or anywhere in the world that does not associate.
I asked for just one. I asked for just one, and you're already giving me a plethora. So, well, thank you all the same. Now, Dr. Uwabi, what's the most outstanding thing about Nigeria as far as you're concerned?
The Nigerian spirit. Even in suffering, we keep our heads high. We are optimistic people. That's all.
Way to go. We have to thank you all. What a fantastic one. Dr. Urena Onyewuchi, the founder, aprofessionalafrica.com, Tosin Odesanya, SVP Strategy and Transformation Programs, and then Dr. Igbanwosan Uwabi, lecturer, School of Law, University of Bolton in UK. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your perspectives today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. So there you go. What a session it's been. And it's always interesting and always nice. I mean, life, yes, we know life will not always be fair.
Yeah.
But, in spite of the negativity that is out there in the world, the love out there supersedes that negativity. And I think if people try to look at things from a brighter side, you just never can tell.
We've had these fantastic views from Nigerians in diaspora. Amazing. It'll be great also to hear what the Nigerian in Nigeria are saying. One of them we spoke with yesterday, Falls, who said, we have to keep hope alive. Is that the general view of every Nigerian at home? Now, that doesn't mean that they don't identify the challenges. Oh, certainly.
Of course, there will always be challenges anywhere with anything you turn to. Look on the bright side. Stay away from negative people if you can. Well, that's it today anyway. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day. Coronavirus is still out there. Please be safe.